And when my granddaughter Olivia looks at me and says, Grandma, what did you do? I'm not going to say to her, I put my head in the sand and I was worried that maybe there would be a cost somewhere that I couldn't explain, and so I didn't take an initiative that would have saved the planet for your grandchildren. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that.
Part of me thinks that when Ontario Premier Kathleen Wynne wakes up every morning, she wonders how she can make Ontario less competitive and life more expensive for all who live here. Earlier today, she and Ontario's Environment Minister Glenn Murray took to the podium to announce that Ontario is implementing a cap-and-trade system. We often hear about different ways to, quote, price carbon, because climate change is the greatest threat on Earth, right? Cap-and-trade is basically a system where a government sets a cap on how much CO2 businesses can emit. And those who go above that limit need to trade with other companies who don't go above that limit. Now, there's another component to cap and trade, which is that a government can sell what are called carbon permits to major emitters. So basically, this is where industries can say, okay, we can't keep to our cap, so we'll just dish out more cash to the government and then pass the price down to consumers. Folks, cap and trade is nothing more than a clever hidden way of taxation. The end result is that the price of living will go up. Wynne, in her presser, even conceded to this.
It does all come back to cost, but I believe that they are fixated on the wrong costs. Call it carbon pricing, cap and trade, a market mechanism, or I believe it's misleading, but if you must, go ahead and call it a tax.
Thanks for your permission, Premier. I will call it a tax, because that's what it is. And yet, she and the Ontario Liberals lie and say that this will somehow save us money. Taxes don't save money. Sure, Ontarians want clean air, but they also want to know how much this will cost them. It's not an unreasonable request, and when pressed on that question, she said this.
People want clean air, but they also want to know what it's going to cost them. And you can't tell us that?
Well, the fact is that we are, today what we're saying is that we're moving down this road and we're going to be working with our partners, and we're moving into a new reality of a cap and trade framework that's going to allow industry to innovate, that's going to allow us to make a significant impact on the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. It would be irresponsible of us to speculate on exactly what the costs are going to be when we haven't worked to design the mechanism yet.
That last part, did you hear it? Listen again.
It would be irresponsible of us to speculate on exactly what the costs are going to be when we haven't worked to design the mechanism yet.
So the government has no estimates on cost or how this would work. They've just signed on to something without knowing the implications for taxpayers. You think your electricity costs are high now? Wait until this new system's implemented. And the impact this will have on jobs? If you haven't noticed, Ontario's been hemorrhaging jobs as of late. Over 300,000 manufacturing jobs have been destroyed, in part because of Ontario's skyrocketing electricity prices. I can practically hear them now, packing up and fleeing to Michigan. But Wynne says this is about saving the planet and trumpets countries in the EU for what shining examples they are.
So this is not new. All of the other jurisdictions that are doing it, places like Brazil and Chile that are now doing it, China's done it, Mexico's done it, all of Europe's done it. I mean, can we answer those questions relatively? Yes. What we do have is almost a world full of countries that have already done it on which to design ours.
Except the world isn't full of countries that have done it. Most countries are actually moving away from it. China doesn't have one, India doesn't have one, the entire developing world doesn't have one. Sure, countries in the EU do, and what's happening there? Their system is riddled with fraud. It set the price of electricity skyrocketing, people are being driven into what's called fuel poverty, and most of all, it didn't lower emissions. Norway, for instance, supposedly has the most mature carbon tax in the world, and its equivalent of Stats Canada actually concluded that it has not significantly reduced carbon emissions. Wynne wants to replicate that. Let's have some perspective here, folks. Canada's CO2 emissions are a fraction of what China, India, and the US put out, and yet Wynne thinks that she can save the planet by making life for 14 million Ontarians more expensive, even though the 2.5 billion in China and India won't join the carbon market. If you enjoy heating your home in the winter, if you take any form of transportation, if you like electricity, this will affect you. The Liberals will try to argue that fat cat industrialists will pay the price, but at the end of the day, when the industry pays more, the prices are passed down to you, the consumer. Even worse, this will have a disproportionate impact on lower and middle income families because statistically, they spend a larger percentage of their income on things like electricity and heating. A billionaire spending $120 to fill up his tank, that's pocket change to him. But to a family living off of $1,000 per week, $120 is real money. This isn't just a carbon tax, it's a tax on everything. And this policy is just exemplary of the ultimate hubris of a corrupt government that was somehow reelected with a majority.